Okay.
What is up, YouTube? We took Pearly to locals for the sneak peek event, and we won it. That's right, we got first place. Pearly best deck, baby. And we had some crazy matchups too. We faced a Kashtira player, two Snake Eyes players, and even a Horse player. So if you want to see how the matches went, stick around and find out. The first match was versus Kashtira. The opponent won the dice roll and decided to go first. Luckily for me, however, he bricked. He set a card and passed. I was able to quickly set up a board with the field spell, my friend Pearly, and Eat Pearly Beauty with the trap set, and I swung in for a little bit of damage and passed it right back. The top deck for the opponent was an Ash Blossom, and they really couldn't get anything going, so they scooped and went to game 2. For game 2, I cited out my Veilers, Ash Blossom, Talent, and Black Gold Laughs to focus primarily on a board breaking strategy. I opened the rock, and so now I'm just waiting for my opponent to make that 5th summon. The opponent decides to start off with a pot, and we see him pick up the Unicorn. But we see that they're playing suspicious cards. What? He starts off with his cash combo, and he proceeds to end the board on the 4th summon with a Blackluster Soldier, the Link Monster, and 1 set. And then on the draw phase, he reveals his set card, Magic Deflector. Now this normally wouldn't be a problem, but I didn't open any quick plays in hand. I misplay here big time because I figured I could survive a turn by just setting a card and passing. And it becomes pretty clear that he has enough damage to OTK me here. So we quickly scoop and go to the next game. So I decide to play mind games with my opponent by letting him go first for this game 3.
Sorry about that. Just be a second. That's a clean burning
Side deck.
I tell you what.
My opponent starts off by summoning his Unicorn, but I promptly use Ghostmourner on it, forcing him to extend by using his pot. He revealed a Kurikara off of the pot. Boy oh boy am I relieved that I chose to go second. Since the opponent is trying to set up a board, he ends up taking the Theosis, and this helps him get to an end board of Fenrir, Unicorn, Riseheart, 2 set, and 1 card in hand. I start off my turn with a Fenrir of my own, and I use Fenrir's ability to search another Fenrir just to bait out any interruption. This is promptly responded to with an Imperm. The opponent then uses this opportunity to use Unicorn and banish a card from my extra deck. I then go forward by using a quick play to special summon Pearly, and then I trigger Pearly's effect, and we hit the field spell. Let's go! The excitement was short-lived, however, because the opponent drops a Droll on Resolution. The guy just had it all. So, worst comes to worst, we just play the field spell and hope to have our future Pearly monsters protected from Fenrir. But the opponent reveals his last set card to be a Cosmic Cyclone. There is still a play we can do. I go into battle, and we swing Fenrir into Unicorn, taking out the Unicorn. From there, we go to main phase 2, and then we basically take our Pearly and our Fenrir, and we link them off to eventually get to an SP Little Knight, which banishes the Fenrir. We are now basically all good to get our Pearly lines going. I normal summon the Pearlily that was in my hand, and this eventually becomes an X-Pearly Noir with 2 draws.
Nice.
The opponent is left on just a Riseheart, so we're pretty much set to go for the throat next turn. The opponent top decks, and he ends up going into a Typhon. He goes to battle, and he tries to crash into the SP Little Knight. This forces me to use X-Pearly Noir to shuffle it away, and then the opponent sets the trap, which we shuffle away as well. It comes back to my turn, and the opponent is 1,000 life points behind, so this actually lets me get a bit of breathing space. So we actually try to go for as much damage as possible. In this time period, time was called, and so we win the match in time. The next round is versus Snake Eyes. I won the dice roll and decide to go first. Unfortunately, we don't open up the best hand. I start off with my friend Pearly to search for a quick play, and then we attempt to play the quick play, but it's responded to with an Ash. I have no other plays at this point, so all I do is set my 2 traps and pass. The opponent starts his turn off by playing the Diabellstar Searcher. I attempt to Ash it, but he has the Call by the Grave in hand. He then proceeds to send a second ash from his hand to the grave to summon the Diabellstar. I pray that this is the right play at this point, and I just shotgun my Mourner. And lucky enough, it was. The opponent just swings in with the Diabellstar, sets a card, and passes. I top deck Nibiru, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I just search out a Perlily here. In case that the Perlily play gets stopped, I still have a hand trap in hand to just mess with my opponent. So that's what I do. I add a Lily, normal summon it, only to be met with an Imperm.
Stop it. Get some help.
We then go back to the opponent's turn, and he doesn't really draw anything crazy. He decides to just swing into the Lily, sets a card, and passes. I top deck a Sleepy Memory here. I pull a Pearly, normal summon it, and this is met with another Imperm. I misplay here by not using the Sleepy Memory, but it works out in the end. I set the Sleepy so that the opponent doesn't really damage me next turn, and I can still get to the Perlo. So yeah, at this point I've taken 2 attacks from Diabellstar and I've searched twice. So my life total is actually looking pretty low. And so my opponent figures he can probably just beat me here by just swinging it. And so that's what he attempts to do. I flip the Sleepy Memory and I end up discarding the Nibiru. This saves me from damage, and I also get to search the field spell finally. The opponent then reveals that his top deck was a Poplar. My dude's gaming. He starts popping off, trying to get to the Snake Eyes engine. And when he finally goes into Snake Eyes Ash, I chain my trap, the Black Goat Laughs, calling Flamebirch Dragon, and my opponent is fumbled. Now for those who don't know what this card does, it prevents the opponent from special summoning a monster of that name except from the graveyard. So this completely locked my opponent from getting to Flamebirch Dragon here, and he's struggling. He ends up deciding to go forward with extending to try and just get to a bunch of materials and make a huge link board. He ends up finally getting to an Appaloosa and an IP. I start off my turn, and the first thing I do is activate the Black Goat Laughs in the graveyard, calling Appaloosa. It just straight up negates the effects of monsters on the field with that name, so Appaloosa became completely useless. I then play the field spell, and I'm able to attempt to break through the opponent's board. I get to a Pearl Lily, and the opponent uses SP Little Knight to banish my field spell. I'm thinking about what to do here. I could try and get to a monster, but the SP Little Knight's just going to stop me from making the monster. And then it hits me. My opponent's gone through his whole Snake Eyes engine except for Flamebirch Dragon. If he has no way to get that into the graveyard, then he's stuck. He can't really go any further.
Oh my god! Wow!
And so, I decide to just go ahead and take my Pearl Lily and make it a Typhon and run over the SP Little Knight. I pass the turn, and the opponent top decks a Bonfire. He gets to his Snake Eyes Ash, and as he's playing, he realizes he can't get to his Flamebirch Dragon, and all of his other pieces are in the graveyard. He realizes there's no way that he's getting out of here, and so he scoops. We then go to game 2. For this second round, I'm again on a board breaker approach. I switch out my Ash Blossoms, the Diviner package, a Fenrir, and the Black Goat Laughs for Change of Heart, Bestials, Enemy Controller, and an extra Imperm. The opponent goes first, and I open a Magnamut in hand. The opponent starts off his plays with the Diabellstar Searcher. He then normals Ash and goes on the Snake Eyes train. At a certain point, he just drops out the Diabellstar and gets the Sinful Spoils spell to get into his Fire King engine. He gets to the part in his combo where he attempts to set up IP off of the Flamebirch from the graveyard, but I chain Magnamut here, banishing it and taking out my opponent's access to Appaloosa. My turn then comes, and I start off with the field spell. I use the Druisworm that I switched off of the Magnamut to banish the Diabellstar, I'm attempting to bait out any interaction the opponent has so that I can use my thrust in hand. I then go ahead and normal the Pearly, and the Pearly actually gets a quick play to hand. The opponent decides to use his back row to Xe summon and board wipe here. This triggers Druisworm to send his Xyz monster to the graveyard, but that forces my opponent to use his Kirin in hand so that he can actually get the destruction effect of his Xyz monster. This brings out a bunch of monsters from the graveyard, both off of the Xyz monster and the Flamebird's dragon. The opponent now has an Arvada set up with a bunch of the Snake Eyes monsters and the Garunix. I go on to then use the Thrust to actually search 8 talents, and I feel pretty strong that I can get through this board, so I use the talents here to actually draw 2. I forgot about the effect of Kirin to pop a card, and this was a misplay on my part. I go ahead and special summon Lily, and the opponent uses this opportunity to use the Arvada to negate by popping the Kirin. This triggers Kirin to then pop my Pearl Lily. Luckily, since I had the Delicious Memory in hand, I bring out the second Pearl Lily, and I use this to go into E-Pearly Happiness. I proceed to clear up the opponent's board a little bit and swing in for a little bit of damage. I take out his Ash and reduce the Garunix to basically 0. I finally search a pretty memory off of E-Pearly Happiness attack, and I use this opportunity to bring out a Pearly and attach it as the 5th material under E-Pearly Happiness. I realize here that I should have gone for the My Friend Pearly and used that, but at the moment I wasn't really paying attention to that. I then use the effect to suck up the Arvada, and then go into an X-Pearly Noir. I'm feeling pretty solid at this point as I have a big cat, even though I don't really have much resources in hand. I feel pretty confident that the opponent can't break this monster. The opponent top decks the out. He pulls off the Herald of the Abyss.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
This forces me to shotgun all of my X-Pearly Noir, and I'm busy clearing up the opponent's board. My opponent then reveals a Diabellstar, sending the Flamebird's dragon to the graveyard, and he starts setting up his board. Unfortunately for him, time is called before he gets to combat. And so, we win our second game. If you guys enjoyed this content, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel to grow and shows me that you guys are interested in this content. I'll be looking to get out a part 2 by sometime next week, where I'll be going over my final 2 matches. One versus the Horus Burning Abyss Adventure deck, as well as the Snake Eyes Infernoid deck. Alright, so that's all I have. I'll see you guys in the next video.